Let me see. Look, this is Toya. She knew.
I knew something terrible would happen at the end, not to mention the fact that Michael constantly told me, Latoya, if I die, they're going to murder me. They're going to kill me. He would tell me that, Barbara. And that's when Michael passed. When I found out he had actually passed, I said, no, it wasn't an accident. He was murdered.
Your brother was murdered.
I always believed that from day one. I said, I'm not going to accept anything else, Barbara. They could have told me a heart attack. They could have told me he had fallen off a ladder, and I would have said, no, it's not a heart attack. He was murdered.
See, so that's what Latoya said about it. But Mike said, let me see. Let's see.
Now the latest from the manslaughter trial of Michael Jackson's doctor. On Wednesday, prosecutors played a disturbing recording of the singer speaking in a slow...
No, that's not the one. I don't see it. It's a phone call on here Michael Jackson made before he died. I don't think this is it.
When people leave the show, when people leave my show, I want to say.
Oh, that's recording when he was doped up. I don't see the one where he was talking about after he died. It was before he died. It was on here. I got it saved, so I ain't worried about it. I'll show it to another time. But he was saying that he was scared that somebody was going to off him. And the guy he was talking to, he called him Dieter. I don't know who hell Dieter is. This it. It's in his FBI files too.
What's wrong, Michael?
I don't know if I should tell you this, but I don't know who may be listening. There may be a group of people that want to get rid of me.
Maybe a group of people want to get rid of me.
Here anymore.
They don't want me here anymore.
I don't understand. What do you mean? Talk to me.
I can't talk about it over the phone.
I can't talk about it over the phone.
I don't know what's going to happen, but I just feel in my soul, only God knows, they could shoot me.
They could stab me.
They could frame me.
They could frame me.
And say I overdosed on drugs.
And say I overdosed on drugs. They could do a lot of things.
Who could do this?
He said it's not the government. It's more than the government. But I don't know, Dieter. I don't care. He said they can take me.
I don't even care my life anymore. I just want my children.
He just wants his children to be okay.
My angels.
So that ain't no no shtick. All of them was being extorted. Everybody in Hollywood have to pay the Jewish Defense League. Now, if you go up here and you put in history of Hollywood, it tell you out the gate it was a Jewish construct. And these was the ones who was taking over. Look. It's gonna tell you right there. See what it say? Hollywoodism, Jews, movies, and the American dream. You see?
Reservation. Not only were people poor, but there were very few things that they could do to earn a livelihood. Their neighbors were often violent. There were tremendous constraints on Jewish life, and also a real
Look at
sense
the
of
flag now.
vulnerability.
That's that flag that Moore was carrying. The same flag. You just seen it. You back it up, son.
There was a tremendous degree of overpopulation. People were constantly migrating around this area. It really was the equivalent of a sort of huge Indian reservation. Not only were people poor, but there were very few things that they could do to earn a livelihood. Their neighbors.
See it? This one right here. That's a Moorish Spanish flag right here. This Jewish flag is a Moorish Spanish flag. Watch it.
Were often violent.
See it?
There were tremendous constraints on Jewish life, and also a real sense of vulnerability.
Now watch this. Watch this. They be telling us all the time, but don't nobody be listening. Don't nobody be listening with their ears. It's on the flag of the bays. See the symbol? But the exact one, the same exact one, I seen it over there. It was on their crest. It's the same one, but the background is different. This is it. Right? Righteous Moore over here. Look, righteous brother right here. True, sincere, always bump straight. Right? This Moore right here. These other motherfuckers is Yakub's grafted devil. They the ones made the devil. They grafted the devil. They was the ones that made them. So, I think I done gave y'all enough data for the day. I didn't really go in on nobody like I could have. I just wanted to shoot some shots in the air so they could start cleaning that bullshit up and stop having us think that something other than what's really going on is going on. The gig is up because your hand exposed. Come out the goddamn closet and bring me the keys to my goddamn shit. No. Because when my kings hit the street, you know they got to hit the street because that's the rules. Check this out. What did it say? The true Negro, the Berber Moors. You can't make this shit up. I did not see that coming. I did not. The Berber Tuareg Moors of North Africa. From here. This is where I told you they came from, right in here. These were the priests that, I hope I can't settle here. Seville, right? Valencia. Now, when they settled here, in here, Barcelona, all of this was the stronghold of the Moorish Empire. And they got kicked out of here. Some of them went here, some went here, some went here, most went this way. The Columbus voyage, where they had to go and get money from the Queen, Isabella, and King Ferdinand to escape Spain. And that's what it was all about. So then you got to see when did they invade Africa, right? Because this had been going on for thousands of years up here. This front stronghold, see, these Moors is tip of tip. This is who they was. Let me show you. When they say there was black people selling black people into slavery, this they're talking about. Tip of tip was an African slave trader. He was an Arab African slave trader whose loyalty was to his Arab line. They ain't showing it. Oh man. Don't tell me they erased his ass out of history. Let me see. And while we don't know, what we don't know is the slave trade was started by Arabs. These same motherfuckers. Look, you don't see a pale face on there. You don't see a pale face on there, except this motherfucker holding the goddamn thing right here. Oh no, he ain't pale. All these motherfuckers niggas. So before we get too happy with dealing with these Moors, you know, we're gonna be taking this shit to the UN anyway. I wish I could find a picture of Tipper Tid. I didn't think it was gonna be that difficult to find. Look, Black Turks. And they had you thinking that the people of Turkey was pale too. Them your Byzantines right here. When they talk about the Byzantine kings, they talking about your black Berber kings. This is what they talking about right here. Your Byzantine kings. They look like that. They ain't look like the pale Berbers they keep showing y'all, the mulatto Aryans. They was all recovered. Now, in order for y'all to know what America was, since I'm here, I might as well do it. America was called... It was called this before Europeans ever came over here. Right? Watch this. The Great American Melding Pot. This is how they teach it to the kids, y'all. Pay attention. This was from before when I was little.
As your body grows big, the mindless flower is great to learn.
Because knowledge is power.
It's Schoolhouse Rocky, a chip off the block of your favorite schoolhouse cat.
My grandmother came from Russia, a satchel on her knee. My grandfather had his father's cap he brought from Italy. They'd heard about a country where life might let them win. They paid the fare to America and there they melted in. Lovely Lady Liberty with her book of recipes and the finest one she's got.
Look at the recipe book now. Great You see that? A great American melting pot. Look, Armenians, Africans, English, Dutch, Italian, Chinese, Poles, Irish, Puerto Ricans, Portuguese. You see Moors anywhere? What is a melting pot? Look, melting pot. So let's look that up. Y'all need to understand what's going on, so I got to tell y'all. This is what's going on. A pot in which metals, right, or other materials are melted and mixed. How is it a melting pot with humans, right, when they got to be melted and mixed, and it's talking about metals? They're talking about DNA. They're talking about the carbon-based creature. That's what they're talking about. Now, in America, if you have a drop of blood, the one drop rule is what it's called, or the drop of blood doctrine. The one drop rule is a social and legal principle of racial classification that was historically prominent in the United States in the 20th century. It asserted to any person with even one ancestor of sub-Saharan African ancestry, one drop of black blood, see it, is considered black, Negro, or colored in historical terms. The concept became codified into the law of some states in the early 20th century. You can't make this shit up, people. It was associated with the principle of invisible blackness. What in the fuck is this? Invisible blackness. That developed after the long history of racial interaction in the South. Now remember, the slaves system, or the POW system, the owners who were hiring out the servants was raping the women, making babies by them generation after generation. Now watch this. As well as the hardening of slavery as a racial caste, right? Watch this. It is an example of hypo-descent, the automatic assignment of children of a mixed union between different socioeconomic and ethnic groups to grow up with the lower status regardless of proportion of ancestry in different groups. The legal concept of the one-drop rule does not exist outside the United States. It is defunct in law in the United States and was never codified into federal law. Why? What is it all about? Right? Let's go. I'm going to show you. Now, we know the rule is one drop. We know America is a great melting pot, right? So we need to look at a couple of timelines. Two things in timelines we need. We need to look at emancipation, right? That's the first one. And we need to look up the year of the great European, Paris Island. Now watch this. This is going to take y'all for a loop. Now let's go first. Look at what year was it saying? It was saying January of 1863, right? Now watch what happened with Europe on Paris Island not long after that, less than 20 years, in fact, or they had a big migration. No, not Paris Island. It was the New York Harbor. That's where everybody was coming to New York, where the Statue of Liberty at. That's how they knew they was state. All right, now look. Now let's go back. The emancipation was 1863. All right. So throughout the late 1800s, most immigrants arriving in New York entered a Castle Garden depot near the tip of Manhattan. Now watch this. And you got to remember, it was 1892. Now look again. 1863, they emancipated the slaves. How long did it take them to get out of the South and into the North? Right? How long? Once they did, this took place. From 1876 to 1900, immigration to the United States. Look, 1851 to 1900. All of these documents, and this tell you about the immigration right here. Now, in early 1800, peoples in many parts of the world decided to leave their homes and immigrate to the United States. Fleeing crop failure, land and job shortages, rising taxes, famine, many came to the U.S. because it was perceived as a land of economic opportunity. Others came seeking personal freedom and relief from political and religious persecution. With hope for a brighter future, nearly 12 million immigrants arrived in the United States between 1870 and 1900. During the late 1870s and 1880s, the vast majority of these people were from Germany, Ireland, and England, the principal sources of immigration before the Civil War that would change drastically the next 3 decades. That's telling you that right after the emancipation, because this immigration is 12 million immigrants from 1870 to 1900. Immigration was 1863. Now watch this. I got to go to my man because he's a self-raised master like me. This guy, J. Rogers, wrote a book in 1952. This is not, now look at the time frame now, look. This is 1900. 1870 to 1900 was this immigration that he's about to tell us about what it was all about. It's in this book. The book is called Nature Knows No Color Line. Right? Nature Knows No Color Line, Research into the Negro Ancestry in the White Race. 3rd edition. This is in the 1950s. Now look. He got another one. He got another one called Sex and Race. And in here, he's like a 3-volume set. Look. In Sex and Race series, first published in the 1940s, historian Joel Augustus Rogers questioned the concept of race, the origin of racial differentiation, and the root of the color problem. Rogers surmised that a large percentage of ethnic differences are the result of sociological factors in these volumes. He gathered what he called the brand of history, the uncollected, unexamined history of black people, in the hope that these neglected parts of history become a part of the mainstream body of Western history. Drawing on a vast amount of research, Rogers was attempting to point out the absurdity of racial divisions. Indeed, his belief in one race and humanity precluded the idea of several different ethnic races. The series marshals the data he had collected as evidence to prove his underlying humanistic thesis, that people were one large family without racial boundaries. Self-trained and self-published, Rogers and his works were immensely popular, influential during his day, even cited by Malcolm X. The books are presented here in their original editions. Now, this is a 3-volume set. Now, if you go back and just Google 1900 nudes. Now, if you look at the forms of the people, it begins to change over time. When you look at them, and they used to have to wear the big clothes like this. They used to have to wear this stuff to cover up birth defects, right? And they used to kill a lot of babies for having imperfections, right? So they needed something called a healing factor. They needed a healing factor that they didn't have because they was defective because of how they was created in over there in Babylon. Now watch this. Now, a lot of people don't know about this, but right here in Africa, see, you can look it up right here. A small portion of humans show partial or apparently completely inborn resistance to HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. The main mechanism is a mutation of the gene encoding right here. That's how to cure AIDS, people. That's right there. Whatever the mutation is, replicate it and you cure AIDS. Right there, they just told you what does it. Which acts as a co-receptor for HIV. It is estimated that the proportion of people with some form of resistance to HIV is under 1%. But the resistance, see, Nairobi women also have killer T cells. The children with built-in defense against AIDS. All this is Africans. Now, the reason they need it is this disease. The disease that he had that did this to him. I think it's called Huntington's disease. Huntington's Graves disease. And this literally comes from using your brain. Let's go to the description of it. Graves' disease is an autoimmune disease that leads to the generalized overactivity of the entire thyroid gland. That's not it. No, it's not that. That's not the right one. He got look him up on, but they'll tell you the name of it. Graves' disease is a different disease. When he was in college, he was on the row team, you know, and when he started using his brain his neurons begin to break his body down. He couldn't facilitate higher thought without physical side effects. And that was one of the birth defects they was creating over there. I'm trying to see if they got the name of his disease in here. Let me look up this. Motor neuron disease. It was given 2 years to live in 1963. Let's look that up. So this is why we had to give them. This leads to muscle weakness, often visible wasting. Motor neuron disease, also known as amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS, occurs when specialist nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord motor neurons stop working properly. This is known as neurodegeneration. That means when your brain deteriorates. Neuro means brain, degeneration means waste away. And when you understand what they was up against, there's a movie. I think it's called Red October. Let's see. No, that's not it. It's a movie. No, I can't think of the name of it right now. But it's about this Irish kid who wanted to be a rocket scientist, and they kept telling him they didn't want him to do it. Everybody was scared that he was going to end up like Stephen Hawkins because they didn't know if the healing factor would take. But those people that you call hillbillies, right? These people, these are people that fled the persecution and ended up getting stuck up in the hills of Tennessee and Kentucky, and they was trapped. This is why they learned how to be snipers. The first snipers were hillbillies, right? And they are Irish and Englishmen who ran up in the mountains, but they didn't have enough of the healing factor. That's why some of them looked like this over here. This is before they got their healing factor. Years later, they don't look like this. You know, years later, they don't look, aside from their teeth being bad, you wouldn't know them from anybody else that looked European. That's because they needed the healing factor to stop the. Then they also had something called hemophilia, which is a blood disease where the platelets don't coagulate. And the hemophilia was one of the things they needed the healing factor for, right? Because they was incessant bleeders. If they get cut, they'll bleed to death. Right here. Hemophilia is a rare disorder in which your blood doesn't clot normally because it lacks sufficient blood clotting proteins, clotting factors. So if you have hemophilia, you may bleed for a long time after an injury than you would if your blood clotted normally. Now, the reason why we was able to heal them is because we do something that is called keloid, right? Keloid is a type of raised scar. Unlike any other raised scars, keloids grow much larger than the wound that caused the scar. Not everyone who gets a scar will develop a keloid. If you have keloid-prone skin, however, anything can cause a scar may lead to a keloid. Now, they're not telling you the cause. Is it go back to the same thing? Symptom, causes. Most types of skin can contribute to keloid scar, and these include, estimated 10%. Keloids tend to have a genetic component, which means you're more likely to have keloids if one or both of your parents have them. According to one study, a gene known as ANAC. Look at this gene now. Now, I got to stop there. I'm going to copy that. Copy. I got to show y'all this in real time because you wouldn't believe it any other way. Now, you know what the gene is called. Now, watch this. The gene is called ANAC. All I'm going to do is put the letter I on the end. Watch what happens. Oh, T-E, I. And it's going to come up anakite. Or it should have. It came up unakite, which is, I don't know what that is. United States Congressional Series Set. But the word, I got to take the H out. Anakim. Look. Anakim were described as a race of giants descended from Anak. According to the Tanakh, they were said to have lived in the southern part of the land of Canaan near Hebron. That's Babylon, folks. Just so y'all know. All right, so now you know that the healing factor, they was getting this particular gene, the what they call a keloid factor from the Anakim, which is from them. And they tell you right in the name of the gene. Where was that? Okay, now, research found that people who have an ANAC gene may be more likely to develop keloid scars than those who don't. Right? So now, you see why this is what happens. Now, sidebar, keloids is the body's failed attempt to regenerate a lost limb. It's the same principle that a glass snake lizard used to regrow his tail. But it just doesn't have enough information on what you call the stem cells to fully form another limb. But if you kind of look, this is shaped like an ear. And this can be an early developing budding ear. If you know what it looked like in the baby. It would just have a little hole right here. So her body is trying to regenerate an ear at the damaged site. But it can't do it because it don't have enough stem cell data. So it can't produce that. So now, from there, we go to so then he give you another book, J.A. Rogers, called 5 Black Presidents. Now, why is this book important to a discussion on the Moors in early America? Because you get to see what the whole scheme is about when you realize that it was supposed to be a melding pot. And that's what I was showing y'all. And these 5 black presidents show you how they got y'all blind to not knowing that everybody that look white ain't white. Everybody that look white not white. And y'all got to get that through y'all head. Now, in here, he named the 5 black presidents, and I'm sorry to tell y'all, Barack wasn't even born yet when this book was written. His mother might not even been born when this book was written right here. So, Joel A. Rogers find evidence that there have been 19th and 20th century presidents of the United States who had partial black ancestry, including Andrew Harding, Thomas Jefferson, President Andrew Jackson, and Abe Lincoln. In here. Right? In here. This one. Get that. It's cheap too. And he probably get the PDF for free. Now, once y'all get that part understood, divide and conquer is some bullshit. These fake Moors weaponize white people against the rest of us in order to execute the contract and to build up those people's immune system, as you just seen. And you see how they immigrated right after slavery. Now, right after slavery, this is what a lot of us know about this movie right here. This is a classic.
Just feels good next to my body, and I like the look that it gives me.
Now, this movie right here tells the story. This is the trailer.
Love? But you've always had that.
Yes, by telephone, by postcard, by magazine interviews. You've given me everything. But yourself.
I'm white. White. White!
Y'all see that? Look, that's her mama she talking to.
White! White. White. White!
Now, she was talking to her mama, telling her mama she was white, right? Now, we all remember this with, it was a white lady played in this movie. But this is a movie. Hey, Buck, I know you still watching. This about our granny. This show right here is about my grandmama. And it's called Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. But this movie got her painted as a white lady, right? Right here, as Dr. Quinn. They make you think she white. Annie Mae Buckley wasn't white. She was a mulatto. Annie Mae Buckley wasn't white, but this is her. Now, why do I say that's her? First of all, before her name was Annie Mae Buckley, her name was Annie Mae Quinn. This is her uncle. I gotta show you her uncle so you'll know who I'm talking about. He was a senator. This park right here in Mississippi named after him. And this is the direct uncle of my grandmother on her father's side. Let me see if they pull this old ass picture up. Aha.